Hotep, I'm Dr. Gloria Lattimore Peace, host and producer of OmniU Presents, the H3O show. And I'm very happy to be here today with my guests, who are some wonderful people, and I can say that from experience. And the title of the show is Sisters at Work, Serving the Underserved. And I want to frame the show and then introduce the sisters. And I'm using a quote from 365 Days of Richer Living that says, "We should be clear in our thought as to the difference between labor and work. The word labor implies drudgery, while the word work implies creative activity producing a just and fair profit." That is the spirit of this show. And I want to introduce Sybill Halloway of Sybill Halloway Marketing and Jamelia Hand of a lot of things that have initials, and I want her to tell you what all of them mean because I never have been able to memorize them.
Okay, there are only a few. I'm a certified addiction counselor by trade. I did direct clinical services for about 10 years, branched off, did some other things, and currently I'm a healthcare consultant in the opioid addiction space. So I'm a certified addiction counselor and a co-occurring disorder professional.
And you also have you have an enterprise.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Vantage Clinical Consulting.
Okay.
Yes, we provide strategic direction and training to healthcare organizations on opioid addiction topics.
All right. So the reason I wanted to frame it in the way that I did is because serving the underserved means a lot. The underserved are the people who need services, and they are the most likely not to receive them or to be deprived of the full measure of services that they need. And so when you undertake this mission, when you decide that you are going to fill in some spaces that are void, then it becomes not only your obligation, but it also becomes your economic responsibility, which means that if you don't find a way to support yourself and do the work, do the labor and the work, that you will not be able to do the thing that is nearest and dearest to your heart. So I want to know, Sybill, how are you doing what you're doing? First, tell us what you're doing and tell us how you maintain the capacity to do what you do.
Wow. Well, I have Sib's Breakfast Club. I've had that for 11 years. It's an organization that was established to help small Black businesses get more exposure. So we would come to a different Black business every month for about 10 years. Every month I bring about 200 people out just to support that Black business. Everybody knew when you come through the door, it is a day party, but you have to spend money here. These are Black businesses that didn't have the money for marketing, to be on the radio, the thousands and thousands, because they're trying to run their businesses. So I would use my marketing and we would come there and support the businesses. This is how I met this young lady here.
And I don't think people understand, because I understand the importance of supporting the community, because Black businesses are also Black neighbors.
Yes, they are.
These are people who live in the community, who have children, who have families. Their children go to community schools.
Yep.
They rely upon the institutions, organizations, and resources in the community. And if they are unable to support themselves, not only are we deprived of their presence and what they would bring to the marketplace, but also our children have no role models.
They don't.
They cannot grow up thinking, when I grow up, I will do this,
Yes.
I will be in this business. they always think of go to school so you can get a job, get an education so you can get a job, never of how to make a living
Oh,
so that you can use your living to enable others
yes.
to
Yes.
make a living. So
Right.
I appreciate what you do. I want to talk a little bit to something about what motivated you to try to be almost a one-man band, trying to bring a human face, I think, to the opioid industry.
Well, I can't say, excuse me, I can't say that I chose to be here. If I took a step back even further before the introduction that we shared earlier, I can't say that I wanted to grow up to be an entrepreneur, to work for myself on my own. I had no desire to do that. I wanted to grow up and be a counselor so that I could help my father, who was dependent on opioids when I first learned about addiction. Now, granted, he had some other addictions and some medical issues, but I had no idea what he was suffering with until I went to school to learn more about it. So with that, I decided, okay, I need to go to school so I can help him. Again, didn't know that this would be a community initiative, but it started out simply with him. And my career followed him in his need. So whatever he needed, that's where I went to work. If he needed counseling, I went to work for a treatment center. If he needed detox, I went to work for a detox. If he needed medication-assisted treatment plus counseling to get better, that is where I went to work. So I just pretty much followed him. And since his passing in 2010 from, drug-related issues and medical issues combined, I have now decided I wanted to help treatment providers and healthcare professionals to do better with our community and our people.
So you want to help somebody,
Yes.
which is, listen,
Yeah.
people often say they don't know what they can do about an issue or a problem. Well, if you can't help somebody directly, then help somebody help somebody.
Yeah,
In other words,
exactly.
find the persons or person who can help
Yes.
the organization and then contribute to the organization, and they will help for you.
Yeah.
They will do what you, because you
Yes.
cannot be all things to all people.
No. We
I
try.
wanted some books just recently. You know that.
Yes.
I wanted some books just recently. And now this current thing, which is devastating to us as an entrepreneurial community, is I was referred to go online to get these books. Now, wait a minute. I want to get African Holistic Health by Dr. Laila O. Africa. I want to get Nutricide by Dr. Laila O. Africa. I want to get Heal Thyself by Queen Afua. There's a black bookstore that has these books. Why am I going online and leave that black bookstore with those books
Yes.
on their shelves?
Exactly.
The first line of defense must be to support those brick and mortars businesses that we see and or know are in our community. And then if we cannot find what we need anywhere, and usually you let your fingers do the walking through your email addresses and your phone numbers and your cell phone, because somebody in your community knows where
Yes.
somebody is that has what you need. And if you can go first, if the dollar can circulate more than a half a minute
Oh, yeah.
in our community, then we would have more institutions, more thriving organizations,
Right.
and a better quality of life. I love the
Yes.
fact that you're committed to helping us with that. Talk to me some more.
I
Sybill.
just don't like to see these businesses close. I take it personally when they do, like, what can I do? What could I have done? You know, but we do have to know that you have to spend some money on marketing. A lot of black businesses don't want to do that. And I'm not downing them, but you have to put aside some money for marketing. Because if nobody knows you're here, how can we help you?
Right.
But I hate to see abandoned buildings. And my dad had a store on 79th Street. Now it's just a street full of abandoned buildings. It used to be a black business, a black business, a black
Right.
business. You know, that was in the 80s.
Right.
You know, I'm telling my age, but yeah, so my whole mission is to just do my part. All I can do is do my part.
Well, the fact that you recognize that they need to be made more aware. At one point, I was an entrepreneur,
Yes.
and I had a small business on the west side. I backed into this business. I didn't intend.
I didn't either.
When
I know.
when she said, I didn't
I did not.
intend to grow up to be.
Yes.
I didn't intend to grow up to do that either.
I did not.
But it fell my lot for that season. And so I knew nothing about being in business except that I knew what I wanted to see in a business that I was not seeing in other businesses. So I backed into this business.
What business
and
was that?
I had a business called Soul Pantry.
Oh.
And it is exactly what the name implies. So we had this business, and I wanted to achieve two things. One was I wanted to intervene in the fast foods that were being sold in our community by those corporations who were not a part of the community. The second thing was that I wanted to grow into my children an entrepreneurial spirit. I wanted them to think of themselves, and I thought that eventually they would want to, each one would want to have their own, and we would do this. But as it turned out, that restaurant work is grueling work.
Yes,
Oh,
it
it's
is.
hard work.
And my children were not, children don't really care all that much about working. And they really couldn't care all that much about their after school hours being spent in that way. So it didn't take, the second part of it didn't take, the first part of it took as long as it lasted. But the thing was, I didn't know anything about business. I didn't know anything about a business plan. I didn't know anything about marketing.
Right.
And the thing that I did learn that I didn't know was that the financial institutions in our community did not make loans to small businesses in our community. When I discovered that, I was very discouraged because we had some, quote, black banks in the community where I lived. And every time I went to them for home improvement, no. Educational loan for a student, go to school, no. Small business loan, no. Well, who are you loaning money to? You're
That's a
not
very good
loaning money to us. You have to have either a line of credit or capital of some kind to be in business.
You do.
And when you talk about setting money aside,
Oh, it's
first
hard.
you have to have money
You do.
to set aside. Address that.
You do. You have to just find a way. I don't care if it's $250 a month. I don't care what it is. You just have to find a way, or you will not stay in business without exposure and that marketing piece. You just won't.
The grapevine won't help. I mean, the grapevine won't be sufficient.
No,
Wow.
no, it won't be.
Okay.
Especially not in the day and age of social media.
Okay.
I see a lot of black businesses still don't believe in Facebook or Instagram. And these are actually free forms of it. You might want to pay somebody a couple of $100s a month to run your social media page because you don't have time to run Facebook and Instagram and take care of your restaurant,
Right.
keep it clean, watch the staff, order, everything you have to do. Just delegate that to someone else so then you know it's just done. But that's a little money, but it will help you make more money, And I'm learning that myself because I have my own brick and mortar, a co-working space, so I understand.
So how do you introduce yourself to, say, a business by virtue of your own marketing, and then you get invited to come in and assist them, or do you have to sell them on the notion that they need marketing? Because I wouldn't have thought that sitting right on Roosevelt Road with a big sign up over my door I thought that was all that I needed.
It was at one point because you had the community, but it's not like that anymore. People depend on social media. People live on their phones. You know that. There's just no way. People want to see where you are on social media. They want to know what's going on. A website, which doesn't cost a lot as well. You can just, as long as you have a landing page, a page where they can go to, that's $300.
Well, I don't want to leave you out of this, but I got to spend a little more time over here.
Yes.
I fully understand your position because it is correct. Every other second, if you're trying to watch anything on television, I don't care what it is, you are going to have some kind of advertising intervene in the course of that program.
Yeah.
And depending upon the popularity of the program, you're going to have several interruptions. Now, if major corporations feel a need to tell you about a hamburger every 3 seconds, or tell you about some chicken every 3 seconds, and you see them, you can't miss them because these franchises are all up and down every major thoroughfare. So they're there. You see them all the time, but they tell you they're there. They tell you they have something new. They tell you they have a better price.
Yes.
They tell you they're open earlier. They tell you they're open later or overnight. They keep themselves on your mind.
And that's what we all have to do. You have to do it too. We all have to do that. Stay on. I tell my people, they have to see you at least 7 times before you become a staple in their mind, or even a thought. So that's why I do both, social media and touching. We have to come to the business.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now how does that fit in with, I know that you don't see yourself as, I don't know how you see yourself. What am I saying? I know.
I see myself as a resource of support. The same way the TV is on and you see a commercial for a hamburger or a hot dog or restaurant, you also see some form of marketing regarding the opiate epidemic. It is the leading cause of accidental death for Americans under 50. In Chicago alone, we had more than 2,000 drug overdoses last year. Almost half of those took place on the west side of Chicago, not far from where we're sitting right now. But we are not really addressing the issue. What we're doing is we're putting a Band-Aid on it. So for someone like me, I try to piggyback off of the media that is taking place today. For example, if there's an article that comes out about, just recently, there were 8 opiate overdoses in the Joliet area within a 3-hour time span. So it's up to me in an effort to build my credibility to make sure that I'm looking for those things, take those things, write how I feel about them, and post them to social media. So not only does that help me to build credibility, but it lets customers know that, hey, I'm staying on top of the trends for you. I also sent 4 physicians that I knew in that area emails. This is what's happening in your community. This is what I think you could do about it. If nothing else, share with your patients that there is a bad batch of opiates that are going around. So protect your patients, help them obtain reversal medication if they have an overdose. I mean, there are plenty of things that I can do with media that already exists.
The question I have to address to both of you is, how do you persuade people that we need each other? In other words, you're in business, I'm in business, you need my business.
And I need your business.
I need your
Yeah.
business. It's a reciprocal thing.
It is.
Yeah.
You are doing a fine job doing what you're doing, but you can do a better job with my assistance. I can do a better job with your assistance. How do you form these partnerships? How do you market yourself so that these people will understand the mutual benefit of a relationship with you? Because that seems to me to be the hard sell.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, but you do such a great job of that. You know, Sybill is about the relationship. So what I've seen her do is to build the relationship first and then follow with the business. So I guess, and you can talk more to your business than I can, but for me, I mean, I've been sort of a background supporter, just waiting for the right opportunity to help. Sometimes people don't know how they can help you in your business. So I think it's really important that we say, as we follow people, this is what you're doing. You know what, I think that I can support you in this way. Would you share what I'm doing with the people who trust you? Do you feel confident in that? If not, tell me why, so that I can do something different or better, so that you can get behind what I'm doing. And I've had to ask people, because very rarely do people share my information on social media. I mean, honestly,
And
people
you'll ask me, and I ask you.
Yes, but
We
she
ask one another.
has gone so far as to say, well, you know, I want to promote your business. And so I'm thinking, wow, how do I take advantage of this opportunity? So I wasn't even sure how to take advantage of that opportunity, but we have to talk about it, and we have to ask people for what we want or what we could benefit from them doing for us.
Have you noticed that people come to you when it's almost too late?
99% of the time.
A lot of times with me too.
Yeah.
They come to me when their business is about to close. And
Yes.
as soon as they open, I reach out to them. But then people are kind of on a high horse, like they don't need you. And now I have like about 10 businesses. Can you help me? Can you help me with a GoFundMe? I really don't believe in those with businesses. I just don't, personally. I don't believe in that. I don't believe that we should be using our hard-earned money to help you stay open when you needed to do certain things in the beginning, because we're all in a struggle out here. That's the way I feel. I can't be your Band-Aid. I can't. And I just listened to what you said. I don't mean to sound harsh or anything, but you got to follow some steps in the beginning. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just can't.
You know, you just open up the floodgates, because one of the things that you said is you need to make sure the businesses know how you can help them. And you also need to make sure the businesses know how they can help you. But the other thing that comes to mind is we were so happy that a particular business came into our community that we were word of mouth. You know, we were dragging everybody, we were telling everybody, let's go and going with them, because we want
You to stay open.
we were cheerleading.
Yes.
That's
We
what I
were
think.
happy to have these people. And there were things that we observed that needed tweaking. And so how do you tell somebody who is in business how to run their business if you're not in a similar business?
You don't.
So you
And
try
you
to
can't.
find
You
a
cannot.
diplomatic way, because if you form a relationship, now you have a basis from which you can share some thoughts. So you just share a little thought about something. And the reason why you share it is because someone that you introduced to the business is now complaining to you.
Yes.
All the time.
And you don't want
Yes.
this business to be lost, because this minor thing can be corrected. So you tell the person who is complaining to give it another try.
All the
And
time.
you try to make an excuse. You say, well, the reason that this happened was because, or this may have happened because. But anyway, you try to hang on to the business.
Yes.
For the business that you want to stay in business.
Yes.
So then you try to enlist the business itself to correct this very easily corrected thing. It's minor, but it's
It could be as small as keep your bathrooms cleaner.
Yes.
right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Or
So businesses
Small
don't tend to put a suggestion box up anymore, where you can put in a suggestion, and then you can be anonymous, and they don't have to go on the defensive.
right.
But if you don't know where your clients or your customers are dissatisfied, and especially if you find this an inconvenience or a nuisance, then you can always take your business elsewhere. So this continued to happen, and we watch that business founder. Now, maybe that was not the reason. Maybe the things that they didn't correct were not the reasons why they didn't stay, but they didn't stay. And I can tell you that things that will kill a food business, especially a restaurant business,
Yes.
you may never put something on the menu and tell a client that you're out of it, especially not repeatedly. You know, you can't have a client go through your menu and tell them, try to order this, and you say, we're out of that. Then they try to order the next thing, we're out of that. Then they try to go to the next thing, we're out of that. You have to be whatever you advertise on your menu,
You better have it.
you better have it.
Yes.
And if you don't have it, you better send somebody out the back door to
Yes.
go get it real
better.
fast.
It'll
But the thing is,
kill your business.
there are certain things that I think are peculiar to particular businesses. And I think that one, inventory, advertised inventory in sufficient quantities has got to be one of them. So if you have services and you're offering services, then you have to be available to provide services. You can't tell people you're booked up and you can't service them,
Yes.
because then
The
you lose
doors
your
are-
credibility.
Absolutely. I have a restaurant story for you.
All right.
So prior to my career in counseling, I had a culinary business, a catering company, and I did some food service consulting. And one thing that I found was that most people, I think at some point everyone wants to have a restaurant. We all do. Everyone wants to go
Everybody
somewhere.
thinks they can cook.
Well, yes, and you know, if I could only fry this chicken at my restaurant, you know, the whole family would be rich. And so there was a restaurant that didn't ask for my help, but I wanted to see them stay open. So I wrote down a ton of things on paper, told them how I had gained the expertise and it, you know, giving them that information. They never even read the feedback. And one thing that I had learned from them, because they had shared with me, is that they just wanted to open up a restaurant. Well, how many businesses do you come across, Sybill, who have the desire to do something, but they do it based on what they like? They don't go out in the community and ask whether or not the community actually wants this. Because when you open up a business, you open it up for the community. You don't open it up for you. You open it up to serve the community, but you don't go into the community and say, what kind of restaurant would you like to have in your community? Because they'll tell you. Instead, you take all of your grandmother's, aunties, you know, everything you like to eat, and you put them under a roof, and you don't do as well as you think you should.
Like you were saying, you have to be able to fill a void.
Yes.
You said that initially. You have to fill a void.
There's a name of the study that corporations do before they go into a community and put a business. You know, I forgot it has a name, but they do a study where demographic study. They find out the average age, the average level of education. They find out about people's religious relationships. They find out age groups, sex, gender.
Yes.
They find out all that they can find out about the area before they invest in the area. And I think going into business as an investment means that you are going into business not just to do something that you enjoy doing, but you also going into you want to enjoy doing it because it's work, but you go into business doing something you enjoy doing with the intent to stay in business doing something that you enjoy doing.
Exactly.
And if you don't have a long-term goal in mind, then you may as well just keep that as your unfulfilled dream. Because
Right.
So true.
you will have wasted
Or
a lot
expensive hobby.
of time
Or your
and money.
hobby.
But I do think, you know, that, you know, we have food deserts and we have, sometimes you go to look for things that you think may be just ordinary things and you find them vanishing. Like you want to get something from a hardware store. Where is the hardware store? How far away is that? Things that you go to somebody who is a cleaning plant now rather than Mr. So-and-so. My father-in-law was in the cleaning business on the west side. So you go to Mr. So-and-so's cleaners, you know. You went to Miss So-and-so's beauty shop, you know.
You went to that tailor. That
Right.
you went
Everything.
Everything was right on the block.
All of your needs were met by people you could call by name.
And that's what our children saw. That's what we
Yes.
saw. I saw that on my dad's block. The plumber, the cleaners. Everything was on the same block. My dad's grocery store, you know.
And
And
they
I-
were mentors.
They
also
were, and they wanted to
mentors.
see you go away to college and do well. And
Well, you know, you just brought up fond memories of a business that used to be very near to the ballpark on 35th Street. This was the most interesting family business. They started out as a grocery store, and they couldn't maintain the produce part of it because people weren't buying enough of the groceries, produce, and I guess other perishables.
so they would go bad.
Yeah. So they decided to start a restaurant. Since they were buying all this stuff, they decided to start a restaurant. They started a restaurant, and the restaurant was thriving. And the interesting thing about that restaurant was how much a part of the community it was. Because I was in there one day and I heard one of the proprietors tell the woman on the phone, "No, now you know she can't have no mustard greens, got that young baby in that house." Would not fill the order that had mustard greens in it because she knew that mustard greens kill a cow that got a young calf. So she was on the phone giving out this advice.
Wow.
Those businesses become a part of your world.
There
They
were
do.
small children who
Oh.
came after school and had a little area where they stayed to wait for their parents to come and pick them up that got off a little later. So they were like a community, and there weren't enough places to sit in there. So you just go get your stuff sometimes and take it out of there, but you just liked being around. We will never see
We'll never see that
That's
again.
so
those kinds of
My dad had the book where people signed and paid when they got paid. You remember that? Remember the book? I was like, Dad, what's that? Don't worry about that. She's
That
going
is
to pay.
Okay.
And they came and paid.
So back down on the ground where we are right now, we have to recognize that if we are going to do good, we also have to do well.
Yes.
In other words, if you are not able to support yourself, you are not able to do good for anybody else because you will be preoccupied and focused on how to meet your own needs.
Survival.
So you must be efficient and disciplined in what you do so that you do well and then you can in turn or simultaneously do good. The fact that you want to counsel businesses about how they can interface with the growing problem of opioid addiction, is a wonderful thing, especially from the perspective that you have toward this. And when I said you put a human face, I mean, we keep talking about opioid addiction. These are people.
Yes.
These
Absolutely.
are people, many of whom have become addicted to opioids through modern medicine because painkillers have been used to minimize pain that they suffered as a result of having some debilitating illness.
Yes.
Or broke their leg.
Or
Some
had
people-
a dental
Right.
procedure.
And
you
then
know,
they
you
get-
just
Right.
never
the average
know.
person can get addicted.
Right.
Very easily.
So to keep the industry, to keep the community aware of the fact that these are not just miscreants or ne'er-do-wells who just decided one day that they would just go somewhere and get a needle and jab it in their arm, or go somewhere and get a substance and smoke it. And I'm now reading, and I sent this to you, I'm now reading that something is now being laced into marijuana, that it is not the herb that God made, that it now has toxic substances added. So now whether marijuana was a link to harsher drugs was always a debatable topic.
Yes.
But now there's no doubt that if you've introduced toxic substances into a natural growing plant, that you are going to have a greater incidence of addiction. And now you not only will be fighting on the other front, but you're now going to need to fight on that front. Have you considered that?
Absolutely. I mean, that's why we have the label of co-occurring disorder, which is one of the credentials that I hold. More often than not, people are addicted to many things. So it might be marijuana, but I drink on the weekends, or I gamble, or food or sex. I mean, process addictions, chemical addictions, they all go hand in hand. And very often people have more than one. So with the pending legalization of marijuana, which, should do some good for medical purposes, but recreational marijuana has not been stabilized in a very long time. And I would always ask people to get a receipt when you buy it, if you know what's in it. And they'll share, well, they don't give us that. Well, you don't know what's in it. But people will swear that, no, this is pure, this is, I get it from this person, and they will stand by their dealer and what is in the drugs that they're using. So, there are testing strips where people could test the drugs that they're taking, which are very, very helpful. If you know
Are
that,
they inexpensive?
more often than not, you can get them from community-based organizations.
Are they readily available?
Yes. So places, I believe harmreduction.org is an online free resource nonprofit that will list community-based organizations that will give you those tools, because people, even if everyone stopped today, they may not have a place to actually go and stop. So considering the fact that we don't have treatment available for people, some people just can't stop. It could cost them their lives. So at least we want them to be safe if they are using. And I know that may sound crazy to some people,
No, it
but
doesn't.
if you don't have anywhere to go and you don't have the resources to figure out how to stop living this life right now, let's try to make it safer for yourself and others by doing, you know, a few things that are called harm reduction. I mean, condoms are a form of that, right? You know, we use those to protect ourselves in the community. What's wrong with drug testing supplies?
I don't see anything wrong with it. I couldn't
Yeah.
agree more. You're looking
They're
pensive.
testing marijuana?
You can, well, you know what? I'm not sure if, well, put it like this. There's one organization that has some tools that they're using, but they're still very, very new.
Okay.
So they are working toward being able to test a multitude of
When
drugs.
people buy a
But
marijuana,
the challenge,
they're not ready to, they're not going to
But-
test it.
the
thing-
challenge,
but the-
that's any drug. I mean, more often than not, they are probably hesitant about testing those things, but some people do.
Well, let me say this. It is a general practice that additives are a part of the things we ingest.
Yes.
You hear about food additives all the time.
All the time.
And it is always as great a problem, if not greater, a problem with the additives than it is with
The
the
food.
with the food itself. With what you've done to it to try to enhance it or modify it or do something in some way. I used to say that if you bought a cabbage and the cabbage didn't have holes in it, be suspicious. Because when a plant is healthy, the insects that are indigenous to that plant will try to eat it. It will try to live on it. If you get something that is perfect, that no insect has tried, that's indigenous to it. See, there are insects that come with the plant. When the plant begins to grow, so will that insect life appear. So once you see that things are so much hothouse, so much laboratory, things have been added to enhance. You will read added sugars on labels, meaning not just sugars that would come with this, but some more stuff. When you read bakery goods that are sold in regular stores, you will see on the labeling all kinds of things that you don't recognize as being in your kitchen. So what I'm saying is additives. You have to be concerned at the propensity of this society to add and to modify and to alter things that in their natural form would not necessarily be harmful or is as harmful.
That's a great
So
point.
you just, you know, you don't have to do any testing. Just know where you are and what the practice is in Rome. The Romans do what they do.
Yes.
So just know that. I have 5 minutes. I want you all to talk to me about whatever one you didn't get to say.
Wow. Keep recycling the black dollar. Call me if you have any questions about marketing. I can't do everything, but I can refer people to PR and, you know, branding strategists. I don't do everything.
You're a resource.
I am
Yeah.
a resource.
Okay.
Yes.
It's very important. Like when you said this something similar,
Same
you know
here.
to whom to go.
Absolutely.
People don't know. When you say community-based organizations, who are the community-based organizations? They are losing their funding, so they're not there.
Yes.
So tell us how to find them.
Well, I'm a resource, as Sybill mentioned. I love to be able, my personal charge every day is to be able to connect someone in need to a resource in 3 phone calls or less. You know, it's really, it's a game, but a game that I take seriously. So I love to be able to help someone within 3 phone calls, which means that I have to have solid relationships and I have to practice my pitch to those people that are willing to share resources with me. So it's a game, and I play it every day, and I look forward to it.
And you have to be informed, because you can't
Absolutely.
you can't guide people
Yes,
if
yes,
you don't know
yes.
where you're going.
Yes.
What about you?
What do you mean?
In terms of being able to refer people to resources, you find these resources.
Yeah, I have to research those resources because my name is everything. And if I send you to the wrong person, I hurt you. And I organically love what I do. I love everything about supporting these black businesses. So
Well, you will put yourself out of business if you are the one who refers someone to a resource and they have a bad experience with that resource, then your name will be blemished.
Absolutely.
And it's really hard to unblemish it.
Absolutely.
Right, because all you need to do is get a bad mark, and
Yes.
then you know, that spreads quicker than probably anything
everything
else.
great that you've done for 11
Right,
years.
Right. Well,
And unfortunately,
you know,
we're not very forgiving of each other.
We're not.
And
well, you know, it depends on the level of you know, harm you've done. I would say, you know, in the same way that they say to physicians, first do no harm. You know, if you can't help somebody, don't harm them by giving them misinformation or information that is no longer active. You know, like this resource has long since been out of business or moved out of the area or whatever. I'm very happy to know that there are women in this world who can think beyond themselves and think into the larger issues that face us as a community, because we need you. I thank you, Sybill Halloway.
I thank you for allowing me
Thank
to
you,
be here.
Jamelia Hand, for taking time out of your busy schedules. And I hope you will continue to do well and to do good.
that's the plan.
You promise?
That's always
Yes.
the plan.
Okay. All right. Well, I usually am getting hammered by this time with some notice that I'm running out of time and I can't say anything further, but I can say that I do know that all of us see needs in our community, but very often we don't see a reason why we should be the one to fill that need. We just know somebody needs to do that. And Dr. Margaret Burroughs would say, I can't do everything. I'm only one. I can't do everything, but I can do something. And
Well,
what I
like that.
can do,
like that.
I must do.
Ooh.
So you can't do everything. You are just one.
Yes.